We are back. We are back, everybody. Welcome into another episode of Between the Ears, and it's a Chris Hall packed week here with me. So, keep giving him all your crap. I saw someone last week was saying that he didn't know what he was talking about Houston, but anyways, I think he ended up proving you guys wrong on that. So, Chris, you can take the floor whenever you want and start ragging back on people. But we're going to go ahead and do another look at kind of our picks from the preseason. What we had at this point, what we have remaining, and see if we maybe change our picks, if we feel any different about those games. So through 6 games, West Virginia's 4-2, and Chris and I believe we both had them at 3-3, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we both had them at 3-3, and we actually both had the same predictions.
Up to this point,
up to this point,
yep.
I had TCU, or we both had TCU, Texas Tech, and Penn State as the losses. We got one of those right, but we are, in terms of the record, only off by 1, so we're not too far off. Now it's where we get a little bit interesting because Chris and I are going in completely different directions here.
From the preseason, completely different directions. Preseason.
Yeah, the preseason. That is true because I honestly, I don't even know what I'm going to do here in these game-by-game things. So who knows where I'm going. But preseason, actually, we'll go through each game and give what we had in the preseason, and then we'll see if we make a change in those picks. So Oklahoma State this week. I hate to play spoiler because we obviously do our score predictions every week. We do the picks on the game day show, but whatever, you're going to get it anyway.
We'll just keep this one brief. We'll just keep this one win or loss.
Yeah, I'm going
because maybe it could change by the end of the week.
It could
very much so.
But a couple of weeks ago, I thought this game was a lock for a win, but now I'm starting to think this could be, especially the way how last week ended, it could be one of those situations where you just let a game beat you twice. We've seen it a million times before. Those are hard games to bounce back from mentally, emotionally. I think it's a much closer and more hard-fought game than I thought originally, but I still think West Virginia wins.
Yeah, I never had a doubt that it wouldn't be a tough, close game. This is reality of the Big 12. Each and every week is going to be a battle. Oklahoma State's definitely not going to be any different. They've kind of figured it out, but I'm going to stick with my original on this and say yes. West Virginia gets the win.
So UCF, and actually, I'm glad we waited to do this because the kickoff time is actually going to change my pick here. It's a noon kick now. I was really concerned that it would be a night game, especially it's UCF's homecoming. It's their first year in Big 12, and it's a sellout. I thought for sure that'd be a night game, or at least be at worst a 3:30 kick. This is a noon game, and UCF hasn't really played well in the Big 12 just yet. And I think with it being at noon, that could be a late arriving crowd. It could be kind of a slow start for them. West Virginia knows they got to come out fast and kind of quiet the crowd that is there. I don't think it's going to be this jam-packed, crazy bounce house like you're used to seeing in night games in the American. I think it's just going to be a game. There's going to be a lot of West Virginia fans there too. That's a big alumni area down there in Florida. So I'm actually changing my pick. I'm going West Virginia. I had UCF originally.
Yeah, this one is actually tougher for me now because it's at noon. West Virginia hasn't played at noon yet, and it'll be their first noon game.
Point, yeah.
On the road. So I don't know. I felt confident about them playing these new 4 teams, especially UCF, because I knew they would struggle in this league. We saw it with West Virginia when they first entered the league. Yes, they were good in their previous conference, but do they have the depth? When one guy goes down, do they have somebody that can not necessarily step into those shoes, but be good enough? UCF is finding out the hard way that this is a very, very tough league. I'm kind of torn because, they're a game ahead. So I'm not confident in giving them extra wins without my original prediction. So with this one, I think they may lose at UCF.
Okay, so you're switching up.
To be quite honest, but I'm going to keep it as a win for
Oh,
now.
okay.
But by the time we do predictions, like you said, how do they bounce back mentally from last week where they had the win in the final seconds? They're saying all the right things, like, hey, just kind of shrug that off. But it's a lot easier said than done. And Oklahoma State's hot. They could just punch them in the mouth, and it can be demoralizing for a lot of these kids. So we'll wait and see. I'll keep it as a win for now.
BYU, this is a really tough one. I had it as a win originally. It is a home game, and I feel like the two teams kind of like to play similar styles, at least as of right now. West Virginia's looked better. The one common opponent, I believe, so far, I don't remember BYU's schedule off the top of my head, but I do know they lost 44-11 to TCU. Obviously, West Virginia beat TCU 24-21. I had this as a win. Man, this is tough. I think I'm gonna keep it as a win, and I'm not 100% confident about that. And the only reason I say that is because in a game where you have two teams that play similar styles and it's kind of won and lost in the trenches, those games can go either way. And TCU kind of got them out of their norm. They spread things out. They go up tempo. That's not really what they do. So who knows what you get in this game? I think this one's really going to depend on the health. Where are both teams at health wise? But I'm going to lean to West Virginia staying in the win column here.
Yeah, I'm make this one easy. I'm gonna keep West Virginia win. I'm still concerned about this game a lot because BYU can match the physicality of the Mountaineers. But I'm gonna keep it as a win. I think you're gonna start to see like a lot of these newcomers, these teams start stacking up more losses as they get throughout the season because when you slip up in the AAC or the independent, wherever these guys were prior, usually had a bounce back game the next week. A team that wasn't as physical, a team that wasn't as talented, where you didn't have to play your best. They're finding out real quick that you don't get a gimme or a layup
No.
in this conference. So I think you're going to see a team like BYU slowly slip, and this is going to be a big learning curve year for them.
Do we even need to pick this next one? It's Oklahoma. Uh,
We can make that real quick. It stays an L.
yeah, it stays no. But I will say though, like I think this game could. I'm not saying it will, and a lot of that can change depending on what happens those three games leading up
It
to it.
only,
It
it
could.
only ends in heartbreak because when you
Yeah,
think about it, 2 years ago they went out. Oklahoma had the best offense in the country. Yada yada yada. I think what they ended up winning was about 16-13. It was close
yeah, something weird,
throughout throughout
stupid.
throughout the game. So yeah, it's going to be probably a lot closer than what people think. And West Virginia either won't get the final scoring drive, something will happen on the final possession. And of course, Mountaineer Nation will melt down because that's what fans do. Fans do best. Honestly, it's what makes football sports fun in general. The fan meltdowns are always fun. So
Old Big East rival, I
yeah.
guess.
Oh Lord.
Cincinnati. This is an easy one, and I'm probably going to be on those freezing hot or cold takes or whatever it's called on Twitter, where I'm going to get called out for this because I say it's an easy win, and then somehow they're going to lose this game. But Cincinnati, man, they beat Pitt, and then since then they've just fallen off the face of the earth. I mean, they have no offense. Their defensive front is talented, but outside of that, I mean, they really are struggling to find success on either side of the ball. This is going to be a tough year for them. Like they may win 4 games, maybe. So I think this stays as a win for me.
Yeah, probably going to be a battle. Proximity matters, fans matter, but it'll be seeing how interesting and possibly West Virginia, if some of these predictions aren't wrong, how many kids are in the transfer portal for Cincinnati and or declaring for the NFL. By that point in time, we'll see how their roster holds up. But yeah, since I will not say any of these games are an easy W. Even if they have a depleted roster, I wouldn't be surprised if it's still a possession game. I kind of expect that's how it's going to be through the remainder of the year, unless they play with urgency. Said
Yeah.
yesterday, play with some urgency. We'll see. Maybe they can step on some people's throat, but probably possession game as well.
And then they wrap up the season in Waco against Baylor. I had this as a loss originally, and I'm going to keep it as that, as crazy as it sounds. I know Baylor's not played well, but for whatever reason, I just think, okay, so if we just go off of what I have here in the new predictions, that would have West Virginia at 6-2 in conference play. It's hard for me to say they're 7-2. It's hard. Number one. Number two, 6-2 going into that last game, there's a chance you're still in the mix for that number 2 spot in the Big 12 title game. There's a chance. Oklahoma's obviously probably locked their spot in.
Point 0.10%.
Yes. But there's still
Give
a
it
chance.
a tenth.
And if there's a chance to get in, we all know how this goes with West Virginia, right?
Yeah.
So
can't get over that hump no matter what.
exactly. And you got a chance at a 9-win season here, which would be terrific. You really feel great about the program. Even 8 wins, you feel good, but 9, you're really feeling all big and bad. And I don't know. I just think this is a typical kind of letdown game at the end of the year. They drop and they're 8-4.
Yeah, I was really on the fence about this early in the year, and then I saw Baylor struggle. But it's at Baylor again. This could be a game where, hey, maybe their roster is blown up too. Maybe West Virginia gets lucky here, but I'm changing this. I had it as a win, changing it to a loss for everything you just said. By some miracle, there probably is a chance that West Virginia could get in if they get in to the Big 12 championship. They just need to win at Baylor, and Baylor's probably got like 4 or 5 wins, and they'll completely overlook them for whatever reason because they still haven't learned. In West Virginia, you can take any program, no matter what they're about to do. They get to receive their highest ranking in a decade, the highest ranking ever. You can go back to basketball, go to baseball, no matter the sport. There's something about West Virginia that they get a little bit of notoriety or anything positive happen that they immediately think that they just have to walk out in the field and forget everything that they did to get to that point and suffer a loss. So, yep, that is West Virginia. I don't know. They need to get a psychologist here. Somebody needs to do something to remind them they're not as good as they think they are when they go into these games, so they actually play up to the standards that got them to that point. So, yep, that's my only switch. I'm keeping them at 8-4 for sure.
Well, actually, that changes into 7-5 for you.
Shouldn't.
Yeah. Or did you change one? Or what other game did you change?
Nothing. I kept all the wins except for Baylor.
So you would have them. You had all the same results, and you had them 8-4.
Yeah.
And you changed the Baylor one from a win to a loss, so that's 7-5.
Oh yeah. So I guess we are going 7-5.
Yeah. So we both have them going 7-5, and two, to kind of go with the Baylor theme here. They're going to have to go 4-2 in their last 6 games to get to a bowl game. West Virginia's already going to have their bowl ticket punched by then, if we're going by our predictions. Baylor has Cincinnati, which you would assume could be a win, but they're on the road, and who knows? They have Iowa State, who's been playing better. Houston's going to be a tough game. Kansas State, TCU, and then West Virginia. That's tough to get the 4 wins.
No, I have them 4-2 going out. That would make them 8-4 to end the year.
Okay. I don't know.
Yeah, come on, mathematician.
Well, you said you had them 3-3, and then
right, up to this point.
okay.
It's 3-3, but they're 4-2 right now.
I got you.
So they got an extra win. So I have to. I mean, I'm not giving them another win. So that's just how the season's going to work out. They're going to finish 8-4. I'm picking right now that the extra loss that has a win is Baylor.
But for Baylor, if they can,
but more than likely, but if they lose to UCF, then they win at Baylor. I'll make that now, because that UCF game still worries me, being the first noon game of the year.
Yep.
That more than likely will probably be the loss instead of Baylor, because now that I think about it, there's no way they're going to have a chance at the end of the year, because I just don't think that's how that will line up. I think they'd end up losing UCF and then maybe Baylor. So that would be yeah, they could lose this weekend too. So whatever.
They can lose them all.
they could very well just lose the next 5 games in a row.
Oh gosh, that would be awful. end of the season. But for Baylor, like I was saying, like if they win three of their next five, which is a very, very tall task, they're going to be fighting for a bowl game in that last game. So if they have something to play for, that could change that prediction too. If they have nothing to play for, I mean, I don't know.
It's just it's
Even
so
that,
hard to
it's
tell at
still,
this time of the
yeah.
year because you don't know. Like you're already seeing not a lot yet, but you're already seeing kids hitting the transfer portal around the country. Like soon as the season gets shaky, how many kids want to stick around? You're already at that 4 game mark, but by that time of the year,
Jalen Daniels, the Kansas
health
quarterback.
wise, where are they at? You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I mean, like,
that's really that's the intriguing part. How banged up are they at the end of the year? What are they looking for going into next season? Are they NFL eligible? There's a lot at play. It's crazy now. There's a lot of play. It won't even matter if they're going for bowl eligibility. There's a lot more at stake for these kids right now.
yeah, I mean, like I was saying with Jalen Daniels, like I mean, I have no idea what's going on with him. And I know he's dealing with some sort of injury, but he's at 4 games, and it's kind of been a surprise. Or 2 weeks ago, it's kind of a surprise that he didn't play because Lance Leopold didn't say anything about that going into the game. And then last week he doesn't play against Oklahoma State. I mean, Kansas's offense is still humming, so I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's something there. Jalen Daniels wants to transfer. I don't know, but back to West Virginia before we get out of here. So we talked about they start 4-1. They drop last week's game, but even after a 4-1 start, and I know everyone within the building, Ren Baker, Neil Brown included, they probably still wanted to keep the expectations internally, like in their own head, realistic. Like even with the 4-1 start, if we get the 7, 8, X amount of wins, we feel good about this thing moving forward. And you probably knew I was going to ask this, but if you start 4-1 and finish 6-6, I mean, are we living in a little bit of a gray area?
Just depends what happens. I'd assume that there's a lot of injuries, and I'd also have to assume that a lot of teams are playing a lot better than what we've seen. So it's too early to really try to put a number on it still. I know we're at the halfway point of the year, but finishing 2-4, not ideal to finish the back end that way, but it's kind of see where everybody at. Like 2 weeks ago, you wouldn't have thought Oklahoma State would be a good game.
Yeah.
Well, a tougher matchup than what it is now. Obviously, I had no doubts because, again, Gundy doesn't really put up dud seasons. A little bit of surprise they slow start, but I think they're still trying to work out some NIL issues as well. So kind of have to wait and see what happens. Again, probably get a gift with Baylor, Cincinnati. Who knows what's going to happen by that point in time. So kind of wait and see. Still, just kind of mentioned UCF. That's the first noon game for West Virginia. UCF could probably lose again this weekend, and then all of a sudden they get that first win against West Virginia. Wouldn't that be something? Um, and that could
Oh
be
boy.
I mean, that's just kind of how it just kind of happens sometimes for West Virginia. So we'll kind of wait and see what's going on. You don't know how healthy they're going to come away from Oklahoma State because this is going to be again another physical game like it was against TCU. How healthy do they come out of that game? So a lot is dependent on health. Maybe get AB back by UCF. Kind of have to wait and see, and then Thomas Remack. That might be his first game back. So how full go is he? Is he by that point in time? Is CJ playing better? Is CJ going to be hurt? Who steps up in the receivers? Like there's far more questions as we just saw the offense play well. Can they sustain that in the passing game? So I think there's still too many questions with this group on offense as all still playing together for the first time, their first year outside of running CJ and Garrett. But really, this is their full first full season together. So there's still a lot of learning that these guys have to do. And they Oklahoma State. We talked about the Gundy's defenses under him. They just got film of them playing well, so that can actually get in their head and play to West Virginia's advantage, where they play a lighter box, and maybe CJ has a big game. So many questions. It's all a chess match in this league. There's a lot of good coaches. We'll have to kind of wait and see how that plays out. I think you have to get 6 wins, and I think at 5 wins, though, Ren's going to have some questions, even if there is a lot of injuries.
Yeah. I mean, I think when you just look at it on paper, like, well, I mean, I don't even know because this is really one of the weirdest situations because you look at it on paper and you're like, Yeah, that's probably a win. Yeah, that's probably a win. Yeah, that's probably a win. But we also said that about Houston, and look how West Virginia just kind of came out flat, and they still almost won the damn game, but they lost it. They didn't play very well. So I think, like I just jokingly said a minute ago, but half serious, they could lose all these games. They could also win all these games, besides maybe Oklahoma. But I mean, it's such,
TCU and Texas Tech, they could have lost those games. Like those are two
yes,
games preseason. We had those as losses.
yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot of these games are just a coin flip. You would have liked to obviously Houston win, but again, there was a learning lesson. They should have had that learning lesson against Texas Tech and TCU. Look, when you're up, play with some urgency, go get that score, make it a two possession game. So that's exactly what they tried to do. Look, they were going to go up 10 against Houston before that turnover. You
Yeah,
kind of see,
such a huge swing.
you're kind of seeing some of it right there. There's a good example. So can they keep doing that moving forward? How much does that loss affect them in Oklahoma State? I'm going to say not a lot because there was so much to build off of, and they're not supposed to be there at this point. Gary Green maybe doesn't take his helmet off. Maybe they still hold on. So a lot of stupid mistakes that are easily fixable moving forward. Just keep your head on, keep your nose
Keep your
down.
helmet on.
That's been the identity up to this point. Is they've been disciplined, they've strained. So if they just get back to that formula, we should see some more some more wins, not just one win, not just two, but maybe three or four more wins here.
Yeah, no pun intended. Keep your helmet on and keep moving forward.
Yeah.
But
I understand you get excited, and I'm all for celebration. I think celebration penalties are completely absurd. But
it
the rule. That one is definitely so easy not to do.
is.
Just keep it on, buddy. Keep it on.
I mean, it's a situation where like even us, we kind of believe that they're not going to be in the Big 12 title race all the way to the end. Probably maybe not even deep into November. And I think a lot of people probably think that same thing too. But if you're in that building and you're a part of that team, whether it's coach, staff, player, whatever, you still think you have a chance. And you better believe that. You until you don't. So you have no choice but to move on from that Houston game because if not, again, it'll beat you twice, maybe a third time, and then you're just trying to hope that you save the season from being an absolutely collapse in the second half. So I mean, there's so many opportunities left to be out there for this team to not only win games, but to stay in the Big 12 title race. But they have to move on. They have no choice. They're like, I don't know if it was Neil Brown or Jordan somebody, one of the coaches said it earlier this week that you can't do anything about what happened last Saturday or last Thursday anymore. You can't control it. You can't fix it. There's nothing you can do about it. The only thing you can control is this Saturday against Oklahoma State and everything else after that. So maybe that's the turning point. That's what fuels this team to turn around and go on a streak on an absolute tear here down the stretch, or it could be the thing that breaks them. So we'll see. I don't know if there's anything in between, but who knows? But that'll do it for us today on Between the Ears. That's Christopher Hall. I'm Schuyler Callihan. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Also hit a like as well on YouTube, Mountaineers Now, and follow us on X at Mountaineers Now. We'll be back tomorrow. Eugene will be with me to do the walkthrough game day show, breaking down West Virginia, Oklahoma State, keys to the game, and our picks as well. So for Christopher Hall, I'm Schuyler Callihan. You've been watching Between Ears. We'll see you guys here tomorrow. Take care.